Adrian Wojnarowski regarding the Los Angeles Lakers and their coaching search. J.J. Redick will formally interview for the L.A. Lakers coaching job this weekend, and a strong performance is expected to move him to the forefront of the franchise search. Major news for our guy, J.J. Wendy, tell me, what are you hearing about this?
Yeah, well, the Lakers, when they started this search, they really wanted to try to expand the horizons because the available candidates that were out there with NBA experience, I don't know if they believed that they were needle movers. Mike Budenholzer was on the market, but he wanted the Suns job. They moved fast to get him. He's coaching his hometown team. After that, the Lakers really, I think, were trying to look a little bit outside the box because if you look at the Western Conference, it's so tightly packed. The difference between the team in 10th place and the team in 4th place, there's just very little air in there. And so while you do win with your roster, and while the Lakers' big moves in the offseason have got to be roster-based, they're trying to figure out how they can find a needle mover that can give them an edge. And so that search has led them a little bit far afield, and it led them to Dan Hurley because they felt that he was a kind of a culture setter and development guy who could potentially be a high risk, high reward. You want somebody with a high ceiling. It's almost like having a draft pick in the 20s. You're not going to get your number one pick. Their number one pick might have been Ty Lue or Eric Spoelstra, or Steve Kerr. Those coaches aren't available. So if you're down the list, you pick the player you pick the option with the most upside. So that's why JJ has been on their list. I think they've been obviously very impressed with seeing how he's talked about the game on television over the last few years. Obviously from his career and seeing him play, he's a very cerebral player and a smart guy. But then this podcast with LeBron James, people want to mock it or whatever. I can't think of a more innovative way to have a coach interview for a job than to spend hours and hours and hours with the star player. It happened to happen in public. Whether it happens in public or not, it's an incredible stress test to see the two of them do it. And they're talking about Los Angeles Laker plays and Los Angeles Laker basketball and style and stuff like that. And I think JJ has stayed incredibly disciplined throughout this process. He's been under a terribly big microscope. He's got to be on television and radio and the internet every single day. And he has never said anything that's put him out of position for this. I do think it's going to be a very hard job. I do think that the chances of success are narrow. The Lakers have one top 7 finish in the Western Conference in the last 12 years. Overcoming that is going to be hard, but I can see why JJ is getting an opportunity here, and I can see why the Lakers are interested in going down this path.
Wendy's such a nice guy. I mean, you really should run for office. I mean, I'd vote for you. You're just such a nice guy. I got to tell y'all, listen, let's get a couple of things out of the way. Before I even get into my point, getting back to Joe Mazzulla, he's got 2 assistants on his squad. One's about to be the head coach of the Charlotte Hornets, Charles Lee. The other should be a prime head coaching candidate in Sam Cassell, who's paid his dues, who's also a champion as an NBA player. Okay, so let's throw that out the way first. Now let's get to this point about J.J. Redick. Wendy, you lost me. And here's when you lost me. When you talked about a terrible microscope. Really? I mean, oh, my God. J.J. Redick's in town. Maybe when I see him, I'll go over and give him a hug. I mean, a terrible microscope, that's what we're going to use. That's an analogy. Okay. We're going to use a terrible microscope. I mean, my God, like somebody's forcing him. Somebody forced him to do the podcast. Somebody forced him to be on national television as a commentator. Somebody forced him to be a part of the A-team with ABC. Oh, we've imposed so much on J.J. Redick. Stop that. Stop. He's exactly what he wants to be. He's exactly what he wants to be. And J.J. Redick, if you watch it, I'm not throwing no shade on you. You know you're my brother. I got love for you. You understand? Listen, if this is what JJ wants, I hope he gets it. I'm not rooting against him. I'm rooting for him. But what we're not going to do is sit here and act like somehow, some way he's victimized by all of this. Oh, no. This is exactly where he wants to be. A matter of fact, he made noise, Molly, by getting ejected from his son, which I still tease him about. He got ejected coaching his son. I mean, he got ejected from a little league game. You understand? This is J.J. Redick we're talking about here, okay?
No,
so we got to understand, there's no shade.
Can I just challenge you on one point, though? I mean, he was put in an unfair situation last week. All of a sudden, it was like breaking news. He had the Lakers job. It was. Stephen A., that
Whoa,
happened last week. It was like breaking news. Let me just say it. Let me finish my thought. It was like breaking news, he got the Lakers job, and then we found out that it was really Dan Hurley that they were pursuing, et cetera. And that was like all over the
How was that unfair? How was that unfair?
Because it wasn't correct. It was factually incorrect. So then
it was factually incorrect. That didn't affect J.J. Redick.
Well,
if anything, it kept his name in the mix. Oh, please, no. I know it had no negative effect on J.J. Redick. And let me get to my last point, because somebody got to say it, so I'm going to say it. You do understand what's coming down the pike, Andrea and Wendy, in the next few days, right? Wendy knows this is coming. Because you see, the Los Angeles Lakers went and talked about Danny Hurley, and that noise leaked out, right? And remember what Woj reported, because this is Woj we talking about. That brother don't miss much. And this man said, quote, they're going to make a record deal offer to Danny Hurley. And sure enough, it was to be the 6th highest paid coach in the NBA. One would argue that, guess what? We're going to throw this off at Danny Hurley so it can look like that's where our interest really, really lied. Knowing we're going to present an offer, there's no way in hell he would accept, because it's the 6th highest paid to ultimately go after the dude LeBron wanted all along. I don't believe that's true. I'm not saying it is, but you know that is what people are going to say the minute JJ walks up in there officially for this interview. Now that it's reported, it's going to happen. That this was in the works all along, and everything else was a smokescreen, because Danny Hurley, a reigning 2-time defending national champion, considered the best coach in college basketball, the cachet that he brings, etc., was worth more than $11 million a year when the coaches in the NBA, the top coaches, are getting paid $17. You $6 million off, and 5 guys get paid higher, if not more. That's a problem. Watch the storylines. Floor is yours, Andrea.
Here's the thing, whether it's J.J. Redick, which J.J. is my guy, we talk basketball all the time. I want nothing but the best for him, like you said, Stephen A. I want whatever J.J. wants, that's exactly what I want to happen. I have no ties to any of the other coaching candidates. If J.J. wants to be the coach, I want J.J. to be the coach. What I want more than whatever J.J. wants to happen is that if he gets the job, he is given runway to figure it out. Because what we've seen from the Lakers is they haven't given coaches time to figure it out. Think about it. You're coming into a situation, whether you're friends with LeBron or not, figuring out how to make that team work around LeBron playing at this high level, that's going to take time. Implementing any type of culture, especially defensively, is going to take time. There are questions when it comes to the roster. And then even in the future, whenever LeBron decides to depart, that's also going to be a change that potentially J.J. Redick will need time to figure out. I don't care who the coach is. I hope it's JJ if that's what he wants. But more than that, I hope he is given an adequate amount of time, especially as someone that hasn't been a head coach at this level before, to figure it out. Because right now, to me, I think it's a terrible situation to go into this and not be given an actual chance to put it together. The expectation for the Lakers to be a championship team next season is delusional. It's going to take more time than that, no matter who the coach is.
Well, wait a minute, Andre.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I understand what you're saying. However, I want that for JJ too, but we want it because he's our colleague and we know him. If nobody else is getting any damn runway, why should he? Darvin Ham didn't get it. Vogel won a championship. He didn't get it.
No.
I'm just saying, he should be subjected to what everybody else is subjected to. That's all I'm saying.
He shouldn't be. I understand what you're saying. I would want this for whoever the next coach is, because this process, you just heard Wendy say they haven't been higher than 7th in the West in how many years, Wendy? When's the last time they were 7th in the West?
One time in 12 years. One time in 12 years.
The reason
to win the title that year.
The reason the next coach should get runway is because this system of rotating coaches in and out isn't working. And I hope on the Lakers side, that's what they realize. This system of rotating coaches in and this Ferris wheel, whatever you want to call it, merry-go-round of coaches is not, it's delusional. You know, what's insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting different results. I hope the Lakers make a change in the way they view this head coaching position as they decide who it is next.
Stephen A., let me ask you this. Let's pretend JJ, or Wendy, I'll come to you. Let's pretend JJ does get the job. What's realistic with this roster and how thick the West is? How far this team could potentially go, putting realistic expectations on it for next season and for him?
Well, it's very hard to know the way the whole West will look because this NBA season isn't even over yet. And then we have a transaction season before we see things, you know,
well,
what the Lakers can do.
Based on currently where we stand, what would you say is realistic?
In all honesty, if the Lakers finish in the top 6 next year, they'll have done well. That's me sitting here today with what they've got. If they're able to get in the top 6, they will have done well. And I will say this, I don't care if you hire the greatest coach in the history of the game. In his first year, he will make mistakes. So everybody's got to understand that. When you go with a first-time head coach, and that's a factor.
I look at it differently. I agree with your point about top 6, but here's what I would say. When you have 2 superstars, like as LeBron James and an Anthony Davis, here's how I think a coach, particularly someone like J.J. Redick, if he were to get the job, should be judged. And by the way, let's not forget the name Mark Jackson. Let's not forget the name Sam Cassell. Let's not forget the name Jeff Van Gundy, people like that. It's applicable to all of them. But any coach, Andrea and Wendy, I would say this to you. Let me lose because of them. The other pieces around them, I need you to show me they're getting better. Because I know what LeBron could do. I know what Anthony Davis could do. And if the other guys around have their potential maximized, and it comes down to them, then I know you as a coach did your job. If the other dudes aren't doing what they're supposed to do, just doing their job, then I'm looking at the coach with a raised eyebrow because I need you to get the most out of them so I can look at the stars and say, all right, we took care of this, but you that dude getting $50 million. You part of the logo. You're the face of the franchise. Here you go. Take it. I need you to be able to put them in a position where I'm able to put it in their hands and hold them accountable, as opposed to them being able to look at the parts around them and go like this. Look what I got to work with. Look at this. They just can't get it done. I can't play 1-on-5 or 2-on-5 basketball and win. I need help. You don't need the coach enabling his stars to be able to say that. Get the parts around them to do their job.
I agree with you, Stephen A. I just think that alone takes more than 1 season. Sometimes it might even take 2. Like, for the head coach, it's so different. Think about Joe Mazzulla in the situation he's in, right? He gets Drew Holiday. He gets Kristaps Porzingis. 2 pieces that he knows fits into a system that he already has in place. So you're asking whoever this next coach is, whether it's JJ or someone else, to figure out what the system is, try to stick to that in their first season, and then also try to maximize the other players and figure out how potentially new pieces fit into a new system. I get what you're saying. I just think it's going to take more time than 1 season. It could be a mess next year.
Drea, what do you think's fair in terms of years, like a coach should be given when we talk about this revolving door and it's not working with the coaching situation?
More than 2. It has to be more. 2 has
6 years, 70 million.
2 hasn't
Molly.
worked yet. Yeah.
That's the
5.
basis. 6 years, 70 million.
6 years? You think they would give JJ 6 years?
That's what they offered Dan Hurley. If I'm JJ Redick's agent, who's very good, by the way.
But even if they offer that, they don't have to give him that amount of time. That's the issue.
If I'm JJ Redick, first of all, I want $10 million. First of all, let's get that out the way. I want $10 million, all right? I want to guarantee 3 years, $10 million. That's number 2. Number 3, to get back to your point, Andrea, I will tell you this. I'm not saying that the pieces around Anthony Davis and LeBron James have to be a finished product. I specifically used the word improved, elevate. You got to show me there's progress in every. In other words, D'Angelo Russell, I don't want to see you in chill mode. I don't want to see you lounging on the basketball court as if you're at Venice Beach. Or you driving towards Nobu in Malibu. I need to see urgency. I need to see you out there doing, I don't need to see you doing offers in the playoffs. You got 27 one game and 2 the next. I don't need all of that. I need a level of consistency from you and a level of urgency. That's what I'm talking about. I need to see those things, the parts around you, maximizing whatever little they have to bring to the table. That's all I'm asking for. And I don't think that's too much.
Stephen A., let me ask you this. How do you think the players in that locker room outside of LeBron James will respond to a first-time head coach?
Well, it depends on the coach. I think a first-time head coach like Sam Cassell, they'll respond very well. I think an experienced coach like a Mark Jackson or a Jeff Van Gundy, they'll respond very well. I think JJ is a different situation because of the situation LeBron James and his camp created by doing that podcast in the middle of the season, knowing that Darvin Ham was on a hot seat. I don't care what anybody says. That was a very egregious thing to do. I'm not talking about the podcast. Wendy knows I'm not doing this. Wendy knows I'm not doing this. I'm not talking about the podcast itself. I'm talking about the timing. The Lakers get eliminated and then LeBron James and JJ do their podcast. It's no problem. This summer starts, they're doing their podcast. It's no problem. Darvin Ham was on the hot seat. And that's when LeBron James, in the middle of the season, decides to do a podcast with a brilliant cerebral basketball mind, and they're breaking down plays. They're talking plays. They're talking, am I lying, Wendy? They're talking plays. They're talking schemes. They're talking strategies. They're talking all of these things. Say what? You never seen what before, Wendy? Never seen what before?
I've never seen. I mean, this is a new thing I've never done in the NBA. What you're talking about, this podcast, never seen anything like it.
That's right.
But Wendy,
and props to them because it was Mavericks Carter. It was Mavericks Carter idea. He brought it to LeBron James, according to what my sources tell me. It wasn't LeBron James, but damn it, LeBron James is his own man. You're wearing a Lakers uniform. You are a player. You know your coach is on the hot seat, and deciding to do a podcast about games, about basketball with specifics in mind, schemes, and how you coach and how you draw plays up and what you should be doing, how you strategize, et cetera, while your coach is on a hot seat, and you knew the Lakers would more than likely be looking for a coach next season, is one of the most egregious things we have seen a basketball player do to a coach.
I have to ask this. I know we need to go to break, but I need both of you to respond. Is it fair to characterize that as egregious, Andrea?
Them doing the podcast?
Yeah.
You're talking strategy. You're talking what you would do while another coach is in a hot seat. Like, I understand it, and maybe at the time they didn't think it would even matriculate to anything. I think it's just a basketball analyst talking to a basketball player. I think it looks worse now, but in the moment, I didn't think it was egregious. At the time when it was happening, I could just speak for myself. I didn't think it was.
Maybe I'm naive.
That bad of a.
Maybe I'm naive. I never thought that. I thought that this is the NBA, ESPN on the NBA's lead analyst talking to LeBron. I'm not saying that you're wrong, Stephen A. I would just say in the moment, it did not occur to me. Maybe I'm naive.
Hold on. In fairness to both of you, it didn't occur to me either when I heard about the podcast. Remember, we celebrated the fact that they were starting a podcast. Even on First Take, we were looking forward to it. Yeah. But then when you watched it and you saw the actual content and you knew that Darvin Ham was on a hot seat, I'm not talking about J.J. Redick. He did nothing wrong. But I'm saying, I'm not talking about Maverick Carter. He did nothing wrong. You're LeBron James, and you're having that kind of conversation knowing your coach is on a hot seat? But you don't know how that comes across?
But Stephen A., you might think I'm being naive here, but what if that wasn't the intent at all whatsoever? It was just like an incredible basketball mind and the greatest player in the game getting together for a podcast. And then it materialized into that without the intent of I'm bringing him on to interview him to potentially be my new head coach.
Fair question. Here's the answer. So many roads to disaster have been paved with quote-unquote good intentions. We lament that on this show and every other show all the time. We can't sit up. I'm not trying to tell you that I know definitively that LeBron James had malice intent. I'm not accusing him of that. But at some point, if we speak to the brilliance of this man, him as a basketball savant, him recognizing his power, his impact, his influence, etc., one could easily surmise that he wasn't oblivious or clueless to the potential damage and impact it could have. And if that's the case, how do you then turn around and say, well, you know what? He really, really didn't know what was going on, and he really, really didn't imagine this. It's rare that we ever say that LeBron James didn't imagine, didn't foreshadow, didn't foresee anything. So why all of a sudden do we take that position now? That's all I'm saying.
But I'm just saying this could end up being a positive impact because it led them to finding their new head coach. Go ahead, Andrea.
Okay, that's fine. But I'm saying that somebody was fired and you knew they were on the hot seat and you did this before they were fired and they were still your coach. Damn. That's all. That's all.
My only point is, no matter what the intentions were with the podcast or what they were, as someone who's been a role player, I was a role player in college at best, you always watch how your coach handles the superstars. Always. You always keep an eye out because that lets you know maybe how the situation is unfolding. That lets you know the state of the team, how the coach treats your superstar. That situation is always magnified. It will be tenfold. I'm sure JJ Redick and LeBron James know this. It will be tenfold. It will be magnified to the 10th degree if JJ gets this head coaching job. And it's something they need to be aware of because things can seem great when you're on a podcast. You're chopping it up, you're laughing, you agree, you disagree. Things change when winning is on the line. And so that relationship will be magnified. Again, I'm sure they know it, but that situation has led, that podcast led to
I'm confident they can handle it. I'm in a lot of trouble, Stephen A., because I haven't taken us to commercial break. Go ahead, though.